Hi there, and welcome to Still Learning. I'm your host, Fortune Fowle, and if you're new here, welcome to a space that's about progression, not perfection. The fact that we are becoming people, which means we have not arrived at who we are meant to be yet, but we are just getting to our destination. And so I invite you into the space and happy Still Learning Monday. After last week, I know that was a bit more of a heavier episode. Maybe not so heavy, but a bit heavier for me because I was being honest about the struggles that I'm going through. But I'm happy to report to you guys today that I am doing a lot better. And I think part of why I was struggling so much, and I discussed in last week's episode, was the fact that I wasn't giving myself enough grace. And I was probably being a little bit too self aware about my mistakes and where I was going wrong, to the point where my self awareness became more self critique and more self deprecation. And it's an ongoing process of kind of working that out and not allowing that to be the case. But it's actually kind of what led me to want to have this conversation with you guys today about self awareness and how it is very important for us to be self aware people, but also how do we balance and walk along that tension of self awareness and self critique. And I think that something important to talk about, because one thing I love about our generation is the fact that we have developed so many new words and terminology that help us to describe the nuances of what we go through in life. And I think that in this generation, and compared to previous generations, our parents' generations, at least in the Western Hemisphere, and in my experience as my family are immigrants, there is this level of privilege that we have that allows us to be able to explore our emotional and mental needs and not be in this constant state of survival and just stop at addressing our physical needs. But now we are in this place where we can actually assess our well-being in a new way, and ways that our parents may have never gotten the chance to be able to do. And so with that has come a whole new set of language that we have developed, like love bombing, gaslighting, trauma bonding. And one of those words in particular that we're going to be talking about is self-awareness. And I love that we have developed language to help us describe what we're going through in life. But I feel like that's kind of where we stop in our generation. I think we've done a really good job at coming up with terminology to help us express ourselves, but we haven't done the best of job of helping ourselves develop strategies to be able to understand what we're going through as well, and be able to resolve that and heal from it as well. I feel like we know how to describe what we're going through, but do we generally understand how we can grow and become better from what we're going through, instead of holding on to this trauma, right? Instead of saying, oh, I'm trauma bonding, what about healing bonding? I don't know. That's not necessarily a word, but I think it speaks to the fact that we have so much language that describes the harder experiences of life that we're going through. But do we have the tools and the strategies to help us be able to deal with them in a healthy way? And I don't know if we necessarily gotten to that point yet, but I think that we are in the right direction, and it's going to take time. And so that's what really prompted me to even talk about self-awareness, because I know that I can sometimes be too self-aware. And that's where we come back to this line of, okay, am I being self-aware or being self-critical? Am I being deprecating to myself? How do I find that balance? How do I healthily navigate that? And so if you are anything like me, I definitely think this conversation is going to be helpful for you today. But I do hope that you can pull away some essential things that can help you be able to navigate this, because we are all trying to figure this out day by day. So I think it's great to first start off with, what is self-awareness? Like, what does that even mean? What does that look like? Because another thing that we like to do in this generation, hey, this isn't me coming my generation. I am honestly a proud Gen Z. I can also criticize my generation, say where we're going right and where we can improve. And so we also like to use words when that isn't the actual definition of that word. Like, we will casually throw around a word and that word actually doesn't mean it at all. And so I think it's important for us to first define what even self-awareness is before we're just casually stating, yeah, I'm self-aware. I totally have it together. I know what's going on. But do you really? So self-awareness, at least how I like to look at it, okay? And then I'm going to give you guys a textbook definition as well, but how I typically look at it, and it's an analogy. And as you guys probably already know by now, my brain very much works through analogies. And so I think of a car. I literally think of a car, and to all my passenger princesses or backseat duchess or, passenger prince or backseat duke, to all y'all out there, I know maybe you might not be able to get this analogy, but just for a second with me, bear with me, and think about you being behind the driver's seat. With cars, as you know, they have blind spots. Like, it doesn't matter how focused you are on the road, doesn't matter how much attention you have, you are going to have blind spots as a driver. Blind spots are essentially areas that are out of your sight when you're on the road. So for example, when you're trying to switch lanes, you're not going to be able to see a car necessarily completely until you're trying to switch those lanes because that car was in your blind spot. Some cars, like trucks, they have very big blind spots, whereas my cute little sedan doesn't have that big of blind spots, but they're still present and they're out of your sight. And so it doesn't matter how focused I am on the road, I still have blind spots. And that is life when we think about it. Just like with cars, your blind spots don't disappear just because you're unaware of them. Blind spots are always going to be present whether you're aware of them or not. That also goes with life, that we ourselves, we have patterns, we have motivations, we have all these things that encompass our decisions and perspectives and how we live and how we love and how we are in a relationship with people that we are unaware of. And those are our blind spots. And so self-awareness is actually what I like to think is us becoming more aware of our blind spots and actually making those blind spots in life smaller. And the more aware you are of these blind spots, the smaller they become and the more you're able to work around them, adjust to them. But when you completely ignore these blind spots and you're not making it clear, trying to be intentional about being aware of them, you're actually making yourself more vulnerable to collisions because that's typically when accidents, the chance of getting an accident is at the highest, when it's within a person's blind spot. And so the more aware you are, the less likely you are to be able to have these collisions. And it doesn't completely erase your blind spots, but if we can just get them a little bit smaller day by day, I think that's honestly so beneficial to how we live life and how we're able to not just be as ourselves, but also with other people. And that's really why self-awareness is important. And it is something that we should all put into practice and seek to do. But that's personally how I like to look at self-awareness. But I do have a textbook definition for you guys about what self-awareness is. So let me pull it up for you. Okay, I have it printed out right here because I want to make sure I get it right word for word. Okay, so the textbook definition of self-awareness is the conscious knowledge of your own character, feelings, motives, and desires. It's the ability to step outside of yourself for a moment and observe not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it. It's being able to say, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, and this is how I might be coming across to others. So right then and there, guys, by psychologists, by people who are very much experts in this field, that is the textbook definition for self-awareness. And it sounds very simple. But as we all know, being a more self-aware individual is actually not simple at heart. I think being self-aware is one of the hardest things that you will have to deal with in life and go through because it takes a lot to sit with yourself and admit your faults. The level of humility you actually have to have, like the level of surrender and casting down pride and opening yourself to being able to look at other perspectives and see where you've gone wrong. I think it's almost human nature to want to be an advocate for yourself and defend yourself and say all the ways you're right, but to really sit back and look at the ways that you have gone wrong and evaluate that can be really hard, especially if you have a positive perspective of yourself sometimes when we take that time to look at ourselves and see the ways that we've gone wrong, it can affect our self image. It can impact how we view ourselves. And maybe we're not who we thought we were. But instead of seeing that as a detriment to our personal growth and a detriment to who we are, we can see it as an opportunity to understand why we are the way that we are and how do we become the person that we seek to be, the person that we know we can be. And so self awareness is kind of like that starting point. It is that bridge, it is that first line that we have to explore and start in terms of this journey of becoming better human beings. And it's not easy and it's not something you do once. It's something you have to do again and again and again because different situations, circumstances in life will reveal to you different blind spots that you have and challenge you in ways that you didn't think you could be challenged. It is just something that is not easy to undergo, but it's definitely worth it. And self awareness is not about being perfect. I think that's something I got wrong in the beginning when I was trying to become this more self aware human being and to really understand why I do the things that I do, say the things that I do. Why do I have certain triggers? Why am I being triggered about a conversation discussing eating habits? And me understanding it's because I didn't have the best relationship with food and exercise growing up. I am now identifying something that potentially was a blind spot in my life and affecting how I was showing up maybe in those conversations. Maybe I was being more dismissive in conversations about food and body image in the past because I didn't necessarily understand how my relationship with food and exercise growing up was negatively impacting me. And it isn't until I got to that point of healing and working on that and making sure it can be one that's healthy that now I can fully have those conversations and I have resolved that trigger because I didn't just stop at being self aware, but the first step is to be self aware. And it's not about being perfect, as I just stated, because no one can be 100% self aware. That is actually impossible. Like a car is always going to have blind spots. You, as a person, are always going to have blind spots. So you're not going to be able to erase them. But what you can do is work on minimizing your blind spots throughout life instead of allowing them to be gaping ones. You don't want to be like a truck driver who has massive blind spots, and that makes it very dangerous for other drivers on the road to be within a truck's blind spot. You want to be a cute little sedan, right? Where your blind spots are a lot smaller and you actually are a lot safer for the cars beside you because there is less blind spots. So less of a risk with you to get into a collision. And so you want that to kind of be the model of how you go through life. And so self-awareness, again, isn't about that being perfect because trust me and believe me, my very much perfectionist mind, though it struggles to accept that fact, it's impossible. And remember, that isn't the goal. It's impossible, but it isn't the goal, right? We're not about being perfect here. Over here at Still Learning, we're all about progression and taking it day by day. And self-awareness and doing that journey and doing the work, no matter how difficult it is a part of that day by day process of becoming better. And to be honest, as I have become more self aware over the years and have been reducing my blind spots, honestly, it has given me more empathy for people. I know that's so interesting, but I think the more that I recognize and understand that I have flaws too, and that I come short too, and that I don't always get it right, the more grace I'm able to display to people. And it's not me dismissing my experiences or invalidating my feelings when I say that. It's me understanding that, oh, wait, you're a human being too. Maybe you're not intentionally trying to hurt my feelings. Sometimes people are, but maybe you're not intentionally trying to hurt my feelings. I just happen to be in your blind spot and you're just not necessarily aware of this. So you're not aware of how you're cutting me right now. It's not your intention, but how can you be intentional about something that you have no awareness of? And so it's really given me this kind of new outlook and understanding like, hey, maybe they're acting out of a blind spot. They're not acting out of anything I've done or said, but they're acting out of a place that they have yet to become aware of. And that has honestly been freeing and in a way has helped me forgive because unforgiveness is real. But it's helped me be able to forgive people a lot more quicker than I've done before because I've just come to understand, wow, you're just like me. Yeah, like literally, you're just like me. Because there's not one car in the world that doesn't have blind spots. And I know I keep bringing up the car analogy, guys, but the car analogy is really good. Like, I really do think I ate with that. I really do think that is probably one of the best ways to explain self awareness and the journey of self awareness and becoming a more self aware person. If anyone else has anything better, please feel free to drop it in the comments. DM me. I would love to hear other analogies, but I really do think this one is solid. But seriously, it's just like, you're just like me. I have probably unintentionally hurt people, said things that might have gone left because they were in my blind spot and I had yet to be aware of that blind spot. Now that I'm aware of it, it probably won't happen as much in the future with other people, but it's because I've become more aware of it. But if a person's not in that place yet, because self-awareness is also a choice. I want to emphasize that. Self-awareness is a choice. You cannot make someone else more self-aware. No matter how well you treat them, no matter how kind, no matter how patient, no matter how gracious, no matter how forgiving, self-awareness is an individual. Get that? Individual. Them. You. Choice. You can't force anyone into that position or space. Honestly, it's between them and God. Okay? It's between you and God for that person to get to that space because you also don't know what circumstances, situations, or what headspace that person needs to be in order to even be that level of self-aware. Honestly, when I became more self-aware as a person, it was in my hardest moments in life, not even in my best moments. Like it was in my hardest moments in life when I became more self-aware of my flaws and where I've gone wrong and where I was not just hurting myself, but hurting the people around me, when I was down and out about friendships and feeling like I have come short as a human being. And to be in that headspace and do that work is a very hard thing for an individual to do because it is hard. It can honestly upend and shape how you continue to move in your relationships and how you show up in life. So it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not something you can force upon someone. It is a choice they have to make. Self-awareness is a choice. It's individual. So some people can choose to reduce those blind spots, and some people can choose to leave them as they are. And sometimes, because the same way that though I drive my cute little sedan now, I can one day become a truck driver. But that means my blind spots are getting bigger. Some people also go through things in life that cause their blind spots to become bigger. And I think, honestly, all of us will go through things in life that will probably make our blind spots bigger. But that's why self-awareness is an ongoing process. And we have to actually choose daily to work on that and ensure that we are not allowing our blind spots to become bigger, but to get smaller day by day. And so for me, that actually brought into question, guys, and I'm still processing this. So I may not have all the correct language or may not even explain this well, but when I was thinking about, okay, you can't force someone to become self-aware. Self-awareness is an individual choice you have to make. It's important because we talked enough about why self-awareness is important and why it's not about being perfect, but about the ongoing process of becoming a better version of yourself. But then I started thinking about, okay, what's the difference between self-awareness and self-denial? What is the difference between the two? I think I was talking with one of my best friends about this. I was like, okay, when does it become that they no longer lack self-awareness, but they're actually just in denial? how do you deal with that? Because they're different. The lack of someone being self-aware is a matter of it being a limitation on them versus self-denial is a refusal. One is a limitation, one is a refusal. How do you even identify between the two? What qualifies as this person simply lacks awareness versus, oh no, this person's in denial? So how do we even really understand the difference between the two? And how do we navigate that? Because I feel like that's like another tension we're living in. There are so many, life is just full of tensions, isn't it, guys? Like my head with this half up, half down, just full of tension. Life is genuinely a balancing act. And so I was just trying to navigate that. And I still am. I do have something a little written down to help me articulate this because, again, I don't really know necessarily where I'm going with that train of thought, but here's where I'm at in regards to self-awareness versus self-denial and even navigating that, because I think it's important to be able to establish the difference between the two, because I think it helps you not only with yourself, be honest with yourself and be like, okay, no, I actually have full understanding of the root of this issue in my life. I just don't want to do the work. That's brutal, but it's the hard conversation you have to have with yourself, that level of honesty and humility you have to do, versus I didn't even know this was something I needed to work on. That's a very different thing, because that's stemming from a place of ignorance. And willful ignorance, non-willful ignorance, that's another thing, but we're not going to get into that. I'm going to just say what I wrote down, guys, just to kind of help me start off in understanding this, which is lack of self-awareness is when you genuinely don't know, right? That ignorance that I was just talking about, versus denial is when you do know, but you choose to ignore it. You choose to not do anything about it. And denial is dangerous because it keeps you stuck. You're not doing anything about it. I kind of think of it like an open wound. You don't do anything about an open wound, you're bound to get an infection. And that infection actually is going to make it worse, especially certain infections like that. Like a wound infection can lead to sepsis, and sepsis is very lethal. It can kill you. It's a whole body infection, and people can get it from a small wound. But if you leave it untreated, if you're not taking care of it, if you're going to ignore it, if you're just looking at it every day like, yeah, I have this wound on my arm, doesn't matter. I'll worry about it later. I don't really have the supplies or the time to really make sure this is clean and sterilize it and ensure that no infection is going to get on it. I don't even have the time to cover it up right now. Okay, sure, but you're putting yourself at a very vulnerable risk of endangering the rest of your body and affecting your entire system. And that's the danger of self-denial that isn't as present with lack of self-awareness. You might know deep down that something needs to change, but you convince yourself it doesn't matter, or you avoid it because it's uncomfortable. You've ever cleaned a wound? That stuff is uncomfortable, especially with some alcohol. It'd be burning. Like it stings. It's painful. But you know that though it's painful, this is what's going to help you heal. You know that though this is painful, this is what's going to prevent you from getting an infection and causing more harm and detriment to your body and those around you, right? Like you know that there is benefits to this. So temporary discomfort has a long-term ability to help you become better. Oh, that's something I didn't take into consideration. But being in self-denial prevents you from understanding that temporary discomfort is far greater than the long-term negative impacts of not being able to just sit in that discomfort for a bit. And honestly, that's another conversation I want to have, which is being uncomfortable, being comfortable. Because I think we try to avoid discomfort, but discomfort is where most growth happens. When you are in this journey of self-awareness, there are different points where you may think that ignorance is better and ignorance is bliss. Because when you're self-aware, you understand that there is work to be done, and that work is not always easy. And when you are aware of things, there's a level of accountability you now have to take. And with accountability comes action that you also have to take and follows up with it. And so I could understand the lure or the desire to stay in a place of ignorance because it won't require the same level of accountability and action from a person. It can feel better, but it's not better. And ignorance is bliss is a common saying in our culture and in our society, but it is a common saying that is a lie. The truth of the matter is ignorance is not bliss. Truth is what sets you free. That's what the Bible tells us. That's what the Lord tells us. And it's true. Truth is what sets you free. No matter how hard a truth is to accept and face, it is what liberates you from a lie. It is what liberates you from living a false reality. It is what liberates you from living in a false perspective and opens your eyes to see what's truly in the light. It allows you to see what was hidden from you. And that is far better for you, far greater for your own being and for your relationships and the people around you than being someone who continues to hide in the dark and being someone who is not able to acknowledge the ways that they are not being the best version of themselves. But again, it's about making that choice to do that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, guys. Figuring out how do I distinguish between self-awareness and self-denial. And that is just something I also want to present here and bring towards you guys to also think about. And please let me know your thoughts on it because it is an important distinction to make, but how do we even navigate that? And how do we know when we are in that place of lack of self-awareness and self-denial? Because I think as easy it may seem to be able to identify that, it probably isn't. And maybe it just boils down to how willing you are in being honest with yourself. How willing are you to tell yourself, yeah, I know this is a problem. I just don't want to do the work. And then where do you go from there? Because that is going to impact how you view yourself in a way. I know for myself, that would make me be like, okay, maybe I'm not doing myself best. Like I'm probably putting myself at a disservice by not putting in the work that I know I need to put in to become better. And it can be simple things like, oh, you want to eat better, but you're ordering out every single day. I know this is a problem. And I know the work that I have to do for this, but honestly, I don't want to do the work for this, though it's hurting my bank account and though it's negatively impacting my health. I don't want to do it. And that might make me feel not so great about myself. That might make me feel like, wow, why am I not willing or desiring to do the work that's going to make me better? And then what's the root of that? It causes you to actually go down this whole rabbit hole, and it can be really easy to get lost in that rabbit hole. And I don't want that. I don't want us to get lost in that rabbit hole. I myself have fallen victim to the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, and it's not the best place to be in because that's again where we start falling on that line of self-critique and self-criticism and deprecation. And when you're so far into that hole, right, you start thinking there's no way to escape and you settle in that. And that's not the case, right? You don't want to go so far down out of reach. And peeling back the layers, you don't need to get rid of or identify all your problems in one day. Just when it arises, take that moment, pause, reflect, and be honest with where you're at. And be honest with where you want to go. And be honest if you're willing to do the work to ensure that you are able to get to where you want to go. And that's all part of self-awareness. That's a part. And honestly, that's all that self-awareness does for you is help you start putting your mind and your heart in position to start doing that work, right? Because then that's where self-accountability and action falls up. And that's when you're actually really doing the work. But self-awareness kind of sets you up to posture yourself to even identify that there's work that needs to be done and acknowledge and come to a place where you make the decision to be like, yes, I want to do this work. Yes, I want to become better. Yes, I understand that this may be really difficult. Yes, I understand this may cause me to cry sometimes because it made me cry a couple times. I'll admit that. But I'm willing. It just brings you to this place of willingness. And that's really what I want you guys to leave from this conversation today is just more of a willingness to implement self-awareness and put that into practice every single day because that helps us to become better. And that is really important. So the real question becomes, how do we cultivate self-awareness? What are the strategies, right? How do we put this into practice? Right? I can say I'm self-aware all that I want, but how do I actually do this thing called self-awareness? And so I'm going to tell you guys what I do, and please take from it. But some of the strategies that I do to help me and put into practice self-awareness, despite how hard it can be, it's honestly been such a rewarding experience and journey. And I like who I'm becoming. Can I just say that real quick? I like who I'm becoming. It's been hard. And sometimes I'm like, what is happening? I feel like I'm being rebirthed. Like, I feel like I'm constantly in a renewal process. But at the end of it, I'm becoming better. And so I like who I'm becoming. And part of me liking who I'm becoming is because I take the time to put into practice and do this thing called self-awareness. And ways that I do that is one, asking myself, why do I feel this way? Like, how many times do we really just ask ourselves why? Like, I think we're really good at sitting in our emotions, like allowing ourselves to just sit in being angry, sit in being sad, sit in being hurt. But why aren't we asking ourselves, why am I sad? Why am I hurt? Going that extra mile to dig deeper and understand the root of this pain. Because that's the only way you're going to fully heal from something is by identifying the root of it. And so I ask myself why. Sometimes when I'm like really irritated, I'm just like, wait, why am I irritated right now? Like, is it that time of the month? Be going on my Flow app. I'll be asking like, is my period coming? Because I'm a little too irritated right now. That isn't normal. I'm out of my norm. We are really good identifying when we're out of our norm most of the time. Like we are typically really in tune with knowing when we're off, what's wrong with our body. If we're paying enough attention, we can tell when something's not going right. And so if we do just as much of that in this journey of self-awareness, just pay attention a bit more as to why you're feeling the way that you are. What can be possible causes for that and going deeper into that. And it can be hard because it may cause you to have to unearth and unravel certain traumas and past experiences that you haven't had to really unravel in a long time. And it may be really heavy on your heart, but going through it actually makes the burden lighter. And it actually, I believe, day by day frees you more and helps you live as a more freer and lighter version of yourself because you are willing to work out the why. The next thing that I do is really be in community. Community is so important because I would not be self-aware or be able to understand when I'm wrong if I didn't have truth tellers in my life. I'm really big about having people in my life who are yes God people, not yes man people. I am very big with my friends on like, tell me the truth. Even if I cannot receive it right now, at one point I will. So just tell me the truth because I want to hear the truth. I want to know where I went wrong because I don't think I'm doing anyone benefit. I don't think I'm a good friend if I can't tell you where you've gone wrong. I want people in my life who are going to tell me where I've gone wrong because they don't want me to keep making wrong decisions. They want me to grow and become better. And so I really seek to have that in my friendships. And I'm so grateful that I do. I have people in my life, people who are rooted in the Lord and are going to tell me from a place of love, right? Because they're rooted in the Lord, I know that when they tell me the truth, it's coming from a place of love and from a place of wisdom and grace and compassion for me. And it's coming from a place that I want to see you be better because I know you are better, right? And so community is really important. Don't surround yourself with people who are going to be complacent to negative behavior that you do. It's tempting, right? I think, again, that's part of human nature. You want people who are going to validate what you are going through, what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're feeling. We live in a very affirming society and time. I mean, look at our algorithm. It's all about what affirms you and all the things that you like. It's not going to give you anything that sways or has any other perspectives or opinions that can go against your own. Oh, that's not really healthy, right? You need to hear other perspectives. You need to see other lenses because that's how you grow in empathy. That's how you grow in understanding. And that's where you're able to see in the ways that you also have gone wrong and where you can do better, not just where everyone else has gone wrong either. So solid community is important. Asking yourself the hard questions, the why, being able to be honest with yourself. And 3, another thing that's really just helped me is therapy. I am on the market for a new therapist, but in my time in therapy, I was in therapy for over a year. I'm taking a little bit of a break now, but I definitely think I need to get back into it for sure. But therapy helped me so much. It was really great having a therapist because it was good having an objective point of view and someone who, well, also you're paying them, but someone who is able to see from the outside looking in and someone who, can't really be biased. Because even your friends, right? We can be biased. I know that I can certainly be biased no matter how much I try to be objective and tell the truth to my friends as best as I can. There's definitely a level of bias that I have because they still, at the end of the day, are my friend. And I don't know the other person. Let's say they're in a situation with, right? I don't know the other side, but this person, the therapist, they don't know either side. And so their opinion is really objective and they can actually help you point out things that you didn't even know was there, was even present, was even a problem. And that's really what helped me. So I am a big advocate for therapy. Please go to therapy. Thank you. And most importantly, though this is my 4th point, it's honestly the first point, God. I was telling my sister how the only reason why I am able to identify where I've gone wrong is because I have the Holy Spirit who convicts. The Holy Spirit will always check me. He will always check me, okay? He will always tell me where I've gone wrong. He is quick to let me know. And I'm so grateful for it. Sometimes I'm like, wow, okay, Holy Spirit, thanks for looking out for me. And maybe I could have gone a day without knowing that information yet. But I appreciate you keeping me humble. Okay, like for keeping me humble. But I really, number one, God, He is the one who checks me and convicts me. But that is because He loves me and He cares about me and He loves you and He cares about you and He genuinely seeks for you to become the best version of yourself. And so I really rely on the Holy Spirit to let me know when I'm wrong. And I really try to humble myself continuously before the Lord and be surrendered to even receive that, right? It really is about me constantly having my heart be one that's soft and moldable because He is the potter, I'm the clay. And so it really just stems from that. And that has been what's helping me navigate self-awareness, where I'm not just someone who says, oh, I'm self-aware. I am someone who says I'm self-aware, but I also put that into practice. It's not just about what you say, but also what you do. And it's not always easy, but it's always worth it. So as we close out on today's conversation, here's what I want you guys to think about and reflect on. And that is self-awareness is about honesty, not perfection, about minimizing your blind spots little by little, about leaning into truth, not denial, and creating space for you to grow. And here's a simple practice for this week. And that is just to simply ask yourself, what's one area of my life that I am not seeing clearly? Or if asking yourself that question can be a little bit too intimidating, ask someone you trust, someone who you know will be honest with you, someone who will call you out, but with love. Ask them, hey, what would you say are my blind spots? And be open to receiving that. Be open to seeing the ways that you can become better, not just for yourself, but also for those around you. And it may seem uncomfortable, but uncomfortability is often the doorway to growth. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode and that we become people who don't just say we're self aware, but we also put into practice self awareness each and every single day. And we are all committed to the journey of growth and being still learners. I really loved being able to talk about this and have this conversation with you guys. And I hope that you were able to take away some really key strategies to help you walk out this journey of self awareness. And so, with that being said, I'll see you guys next week for another episode of Still Learning. Bye.